Society is absolutely terrified of your silence. Think about it. When you sit in a room and refuse to react emotionally to the chaos around you, people get deeply, viscerally uncomfortable. They desperately need your loud reaction because your emotional compliance makes them feel safe. When you speak, you give away your playbook. They can easily decode your insecurities, your triggers, and your baseline anxiety. But when you stay completely quiet, you break their entire social matrix. They can't manipulate a brick wall, and they certainly can't control someone who refuses to give them any data. Average people will label you as weird, passive, or antisocial. That is a highly profitable, massive lie designed to keep you talking. The clinical truth is that you possess total, undeniable biological immunity. By the end of this breakdown, you're going to understand exactly how your silence violently triggers the primitive insecurities of toxic manipulators. And I'll hand you the exact Stoic framework to wield your solitude as an impenetrable weapon. Let's look at the primitive biology behind human tribalism. Thousands of years ago, ancient humans survived strictly in packs. Constant noise and chatter meant the tribe was safe. Absolute silence meant a predator was lurking in the tall grass. Fast forward to today, and your primitive amygdala still carries that exact same flawed programming. The average person's brain fears total silence because it registers as a biological threat. Modern society weaponizes this glitch. They demand your constant social participation. They want you talking, reacting, and constantly explaining your choices so they never have to face their own internal demons. If you stay quiet, you become the predator in their eyes. Weak individuals completely surrender to this fear. They talk just to fill the awkward void. They over-explain themselves to avoid judgment, actively bleeding their highly limited cognitive bandwidth just for cheap validation. True elite thinkers operate on a completely different software. They conquer this primitive fear. They realize the crowd is deeply toxic and that silence is pure, unadulterated leverage. Listen to me carefully right now, because this specific neuroplastic window is actively closing. Every single time you break your silence to over-explain yourself to someone who disrespects you, you are violently destroying your stoic neural pathways. The biological damage compounds hour by hour. If you click off this video right now, you are consciously choosing to remain weak. You permanently surrender your biological autonomy to the noisy crowd. Master this highly clinical truth today, or protect your fragile ego and stay trapped in the matrix forever. How does silence protect your nervous system? Let's analyze the actual hardware of your nervous system. Your brain has a strict daily energy limit. Every single word you speak, every forced smile, and every fake conversation burns precious cognitive bandwidth. The modern social crowd is a severe biological hazard. It demands a constant, exhausting emotional performance. You are expected to validate their feelings and aggressively defend your own boundaries. Do you know how expensive that is biologically? Your prefrontal cortex is burning vital energy. Your baseline dopamine crashes, your cortisol violently spikes. You are bleeding massive cognitive resources, and for what? The crowd completely steals your focus, leaving you drained, anxious, and absolutely exhausted. This isn't a personality flaw, it is a mathematical, biological inevitability. True ancient Stoics understood this massive drain perfectly. Seneca warned his students against mingling with chaotic masses. He knew that useless talking corrupted the mind, so he protected his silence with extreme prejudice. You have to adopt this ruthless defense. When you step into a hostile conversation and start arguing, you are handing over your internal remote control. An angry comment ruins your entire afternoon. Passive-aggressive joke spikes your heart rate. You become a highly reactive puppet, but staying totally silent, that eliminates the friction entirely. It perfectly seals your biological leaks. You stop bleeding your precious focus. Your central nervous system finally gets to rest, your dopamine baseline resets, and you rebuild an impenetrable cognitive shield. The system wants you constantly drained because a tired brain is easily manipulated. Absolute silence is the ultimate quiet rebellion. Are you passive or biologically untouchable? Answer this brutally honest question. Are you silent because you're terrified of conflict, or are you operating on an elite biological baseline? Pop psychology constantly lies to you. They claim introversion is a disease. They say highly social, loud people always win and that you need to speak your truth. That is pure, unadulterated societal manipulation. History proves the exact opposite. Every massive human breakthrough required deep, isolated focus. Marcus Aurelius ruled the known world, yet he actively sought profound solitude. He didn't explain his grand decisions to the peasants, and he didn't argue with fools. He was the absolute master of himself. You are not broken for wanting to be quiet. Your brain naturally rejects toxic noise and craves uninterrupted cognitive processing. Stop apologizing for being biologically optimized. You need to reframe your entire identity right now. Society calls you weird because they are projecting their own massive insecurities onto you. They are terrified of silence. They need background noise just to survive their own thoughts. They use loud words as human shields. When they see you sitting there perfectly calm and totally silent, they see their own massive weakness reflected back at them. They attack you to feel safe. They shame you to enforce compliance. Do not absorb their toxic projection. You do not need constant stimulation. You can sit in a quiet room with uncomfortable thoughts and easily process your reality. This makes you incredibly, fundamentally dangerous to the status quo. A man who needs absolutely nothing from the crowd cannot be controlled by anyone. He cannot be guilt-tripped. He is completely biologically free. You will never hear this truth in the mainstream media. The algorithms and modern lifestyle gurus profit massively from your constant loud reactions. This is a highly guarded hidden secret that the elite 1% understand intimately. They use strict, calculated silence to dominate negotiations and outlast their enemies. If you miss this exact framework today, you will remain highly profitable, weak prey. You will endlessly bleed your energy. Wake up and claim your power right now. What happens when manipulators lose control? Let's clinically dissect the toxic manipulator. How do they actually maintain their grip on you? They require your constant emotional reaction. Narcissists survive purely on the data you feed them. They will purposely say something highly offensive just to watch you explode. When you passionately argue back, they study you. They map your exact emotional triggers, locate your deepest insecurities, and weaponize them against you later. It is a highly calculated game, and when you react, you willingly hand them your entire playbook. But what happens when you freeze? What happens when you look at them with dead, calm eyes and say absolutely nothing? You completely starve them of oxygen. You deny them access to your internal neurochemistry. This drives them absolutely, completely insane. They will desperately try to guilt trip you. They'll call you selfish, weird, or cowardly. It's a pathetic, desperate tactic because they realize they are losing their psychological grip. They want you back in the loud chaos because in chaos they know how to win. In absolute silence they instantly lose. You hold the ultimate biological leverage. The person who needs less validation always wins the dynamic. They desperately need your attention, you simply do not need theirs. This completely flips the power structure. You become the undeniable dominant force. By refusing to ever speak, you defeat them entirely without lifting a single weapon. This is pure advanced Stoic strategy. Your absence of reaction is an impenetrable shield. How does non-reaction destroy toxic people? Let's analyze total non-reaction from a clinical standpoint. Toxic people are constantly projecting their own massive internal chaos outward, deeply hoping you will absorb it for them. When you react, you catch their biological poison. Your cortisol levels instantly match theirs and you enter a shared psychotic state. That is exactly what they desire. They want you suffering in the mud alongside them. Non-reaction is the ultimate biological rejection. You simply let their poison drop to the floor. You observe them like a scientist studying a lab rat. You watch them violently self-destruct entirely alone. This requires massive, unshakable internal fortitude. Your primal brain desperately wants conflict. You have to actively override that weak instinct and remain a cold statue. When you refuse to react emotionally, you force them to face themselves. Their toxic words echo back loudly in the empty room. They realize they look entirely foolish. They feel the heavy, awkward weight of your silence. That silence is incredibly psychologically painful for them because it forces severe, unwanted self-reflection. Toxic people hate self-reflection. They use your anger as a distraction from their own miserable reality. When you remove your angry reaction, they are left alone with their demons. You completely destroy them by doing absolutely nothing. Your biological battery remains entirely full while theirs drains out completely. You control the exact emotional temperature of the room. You are completely immune to their chaos. The mathematical cost of your inaction is absolute. Your inability to stay silent is destroying you. Every reactive interaction compounds your massive neurological debt. You will physically pay for this with severe anxiety and exhaustion. You will start tomorrow completely defeated. You have exactly one highly critical minute left to reprogram this massive cognitive failure, or your emotional baseline shatters permanently. Listen very closely to this exact blueprint. How to build total immunity through silence? You have to master total immunity today. Break your weak social conditioning. Silence is a massive modern superpower and you must wield it with cold intention. Here is the exact clinical blueprint. Tomorrow, when someone directly insults your ego or tries to drag you into their drama, close your mouth entirely and breathe. Do not offer a weak apology. Do not launch a furious counterattack. Look them directly in the eyes and count to 10 in absolute silence. Notice the massive spike of adrenaline in your chest. Your primitive brain will desperately want to scream. Let that weak primal urge die right there. Endure the highly uncomfortable silent void. Let the other person panic entirely. Sit with your own terrifying power and watch them squirm in the quiet. Realize that their words absolutely cannot hurt you. Train your amygdala to find safety in your own mind. Your mind is your sanctuary. You do not need to win the argument. You do not need the last word. You are completely sufficient entirely alone. This is the absolute peak of Stoic fortitude. This is undeniable total internal control. Society will continuously judge your silence. Let them judge you completely blindly. Their exhausted, flawed opinions do not matter. They are weak slaves to noise. You are the master of silence. You are building an unshakable empire in the shadows, emerging only to conquer your goals. You are a ghost to manipulators and a nightmare to your competitors. You have successfully hacked your biology. Never give them your valuable data. Never explain your massive goals. Let your undeniable results speak for you. Subscribe to successfully master your own primal psychology. Hit the bell icon right now. Check the elite resources in the pinned description below. Protect your mind from the loud, weak masses. Master total immunity through absolute silence and become fundamentally untouchable today.